Hi, Khan.
Hi, Kristian. Wonderful to see you. Kristian, you have come in. It's not like we have been on a 4-year journey together. Actually, you have recently joined the team helping me to establish Breathing Business and the Heart Revolution. So I'm super excited to invite you in to talk about step 6. I learn every day, because that's how I've come to know you. So very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Khan. I think step 6 is definitely appropriate for not just me, but also the journey that we've had together. It hasn't been 4 years, but it's certainly been a busy 6 months or half a year, so with lots of learning in that time.
Yes, I agree with you. So tell me, what made you go on a personal transformation journey?
Yeah. It was interesting. When I was reading the book, and especially chapter 6, the thing that I kept thinking back to, and I didn't think of it at the time as a official transformation journey in that way, but I kept thinking back to my university days, and especially my end of university. And I had this moment where I didn't get the results that I wanted at university. I was quite disappointed. And I'd always been a good student in terms of grades and getting good grades, but I hadn't always had to work as hard for them as I thought. And when I look back at my university grades, I could see what had gone wrong, and I'd seen myself refusing to kind of take the learnings that had come year on year. And I was very disappointed that I hadn't given myself fully, that I hadn't taken the feedback from the first year, from the second year, to up my game, that I just thought that I'd just be able to pull it off and pull it out the bag at the last minute, and I didn't need to work as hard as the others. So I think that was a point where I really looked at what I thought was the way that I was going to get ahead and how I thought I was going to get results, and had to reevaluate and realize I had to become far better at that.
At learning, because if you didn't, you would never perform.
Exactly.
Nice. I think that is relevant for you and everyone else. So in this step 6, I learn every day. How does that help business?
It's a good question. I think we can really look at learning every day as a real force multiplier, and the ability to kind of bring in everybody's best expertise when you really let in the feedback and you allow yourself to be in a place of learning and curiosity and not defensiveness. I always, funny enough, I'm thinking now of when we started working together, not just you and I, but the wider team. And the first piece of work I had to deliver was around an audience insights piece of research. And I sent that to Emilia to have a look at in the first instance. And the feedback wasn't great, to say the least, in that moment. And of course, there's always that moment, oh, crap, I've messed up now. That's not good enough. What can I do? And it was really interesting working with Emilia, who of course has the same warm energy and approach to this as you do in terms of feedback. And we actually looked at it, and we took a bit of time. We put some space in there to look at this again and actually work together. And we ended up in a situation where I was able to, instead of taking this as something I now need to fix and I need to do this myself, I can actually lean into Emilia and learn from her expertise in the field, and take on her expertise and then put it into the marketing lens that it needs to be in, but really expanding this entire piece of work so that it becomes something far more powerful and co-created. And it was interesting. It wasn't just, the challenge that I needed to take on in terms of learning more myself and doing that in the background. It was that seeing the challenge of me not having delivered something good enough and making that into the opportunity for me learning more from Emilia, from you, to actually create something that was far better than where it had started. And if you had just accepted it, where we would have been in.
Yeah, that's a very, very good example. And as I was noticing the two of you work, I also saw that not only to get the product become better, but actually the relationship grew by both of you meeting in the space of saying, yeah, this is not good enough, but we can make it great together. And that's not a problem. That's just an opportunity. Thank you
Exactly.
for sharing.
It's an interesting relationship as well, where feedback in that regard is almost two ways. You have to ask for it and be willing to accept it, but you also have to be willing to give it and give it honestly for it to actually work.
What you're saying here, it took collaboration, it took listening, it took very important that you lower your shoulders. I think that's a key point. You can only learn when your shoulders are lowered, right?
Yes.
So, so people for entering the journey now, do you have any tips or guidance to them? What would be your advice?
I think we've kind of just said it, haven't we? It's lowering your shoulders. It's accepting that you don't necessarily have the answers, pulling in the expertise and recognizing that there's plenty to learn from everyone, even good or bad situations. There was plenty I had to learn about myself and my bad habits before I could move forward. And there was plenty that I could learn technically from others to be able to improve my own work and the collective output that we were delivering in situations. And I think it's really important when you do that to, no one gives feedback, especially not your colleagues or your friends. They're not trying to put you down. So if we accept that and understand that everybody's trying to come from a good place of developing, of trying to improve the outputs, then we can much easier lower our shoulders, take it on, see what's right, see what's worked. It's not that every piece of feedback is necessarily right, but if we can accept it and listen to it and think about it, we can learn far more from it, and we can create a much better output if we then take it upon ourselves rather than putting up the shield of defensiveness.
Mm. And I have definitely in the 6 months we have worked together, I have been super impressed with you moving into a space that you don't know so much in advance about, but actually that your main theme has been always to ask for feedback, always to listen, and by that keeping the relationship also to me very open, in really created a learning space. So I really appreciate it. Thank you,
I
Kristian.
appreciate it as well.